I've had the pleasure of working with this group of young musicians and hearing them grow over the past 6 hours. Now, think about that. 360 minutes is what we had to put together a concert. Normally, probably they would spend 15 to 1,800 minutes getting ready for 3 songs for their concert performance assessment that's coming up here soon as well. And these guys have gone from a group of strangers and grown into a pretty good little band you're going to hear just a little bit. This band of these particular musicians has never existed until this morning. It's 8:45, and will never play again after our concert in a few minutes. You get to experience the world premiere and the final concert of this group of young players. One of the biggest challenges has been to learn all this new music and play with other musicians in a band that they've never worked with before, and they had to pull off this in about 360 minutes. To top it off, many of these kids have never played in an honor band setting or outside the comfort of their school setting. Honor bands are just a great way for us to meet, for them to meet new friends, to play in a group of like-minded musicians. And some of these kids will play in honor bands and summer music camps with these new friends for the rest of their high school and high school careers, and even into college and beyond. My current job, I have the joy of working with students in my band program as young as 6th grade. And in my job at the church, I work with the orchestra with adults that are up into their 70s. So music truly is something they can do for the rest of their lives, and I just want to encourage you to keep them in music. It's one of those things that literally they can do forever. We probably not a lot of 70-year-olds playing football, but there's 70-year-olds in our choir and our orchestra that are still loving using that gift that they've developed to make music. It's not going to be perfect, probably not. Have they worked hard and paid attention? They really have. I mean, some of you are thinking, I can't pay attention. But why? Believe me, I've got 4 kids, and my youngest one right now is this age, and I've got all this white hair, and I'm only 28. But what you're going to find is that these kids can do great things. And man, the amount of time we've worked on it, it's going to be, I think you're going to be enjoy the concert and be really impressed. The first song that we're going to play, it's just a little bit of introduction, because if I didn't tell you what it was, you'd be kind of like, what? It's called The Great Locomotive Chase. All right? So I'm just going to read this to you, okay? It's only 6 pages. Settle back. Sit back. Actually, just read a little bit. In the early years of the Civil War, Georgia was largely protected from military hostilities, leaving it free to ship arms and munitions, food and supplies to Confederate troops on the battlefields to the northeast. It was the importance of the extensive rail system to the Confederates that prompted James Andrews, a Union spy from Kentucky, to attempt a daring effort to disrupt the 138-mile rail line, connecting Atlanta to Chattanooga. Along with 19 Union soldiers dressed as civilians, Andrews arrived at Marietta April 12, 1862. Here they boarded a northbound train pulled by the General, a wood-burning locomotive built in 1855. At Big Shanty, the train stopped so the passengers and crew could eat breakfast. Andrews used the brake to uncouple the engine, wood tender, and 3 boxcars from passenger cars. They then sped off with the goal of damaging as many W&A tracks and rail bridges as possible. Hearing the General steam out, conductor William Fuller and 2 of the employees ran out of the hotel dining room and pursued the stolen train by foot for several miles. Ultimately, Fuller would commandeer the locomotive Texas, which is the guy who ran out after his train, commandeered another locomotive, and joined by Confederate soldiers, finally catch Andrews' Raiders, a race Joel Chandler Harris later characterized as the boldest adventure of the war. So you're going to hear a lot of train-related stuff and noises. You're going to hear the flutes make this sort of really cool train noise at the beginning. You're going to hear the chimes over here sounding like the warning gate at the crossing stuff. You're going to hear where you pretend like you're standing there, and all of a sudden you're going to hear this thing go do 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 do. You get a little Doppler effect and everything. So we hope you're going to enjoy the Great Locomotive Chase by Robert W. Smith. And hopefully you could picture what was going on. The train chugging out of the station, you had the clarinet going doo 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 doo, and the train going that's here. So really a lot of fun to play that one. We're going to kind of change pace now. We're going to play a song that's called "Too Beautiful for Words." So I'm thinking it's just describing my life is what's happening here. And so this is a song by Ron Bryce, another composer who writes a lot of great stuff for young bands. And we're going to play that for you now. We've got custom songs ready to go. All right, so hope you enjoy "Too Beautiful for Words." So the next piece we're going to play, these little explanations as well, just because you'll be like, what the world is happening? This piece is called High Voltage, and it's another young band composer that if I were to, when I asked him at the beginning, how many of you played a song by such and such, a few hands up, and how many people sung by such and such, and said, how many of you played a song by Randall Standridge? And like every hand went, he writes a lot of stuff, and he writes a lot of great stuff that people enjoy. And this is called High Voltage. You're going to hear some sound effects that are going to come from our phone here. Let me take it to the sound effects engineer. Here it is. I'm back here. So here's what Mr. Standridge had in mind when he wrote this. Now the cool thing is, when you talk to him, he's a really down-to-earth guy. And what he says is, I just wonder, when I was in middle school band, we just didn't have a lot of music. It was a lot of fun. Because I wanted to write stuff that kids would enjoy playing on the level they were able to play, and so he's done that. So here's another song that he's done. This is the High Voltage. We live in an electric world. Our homes, our phones, our televisions, our games, our music, and our lives are all tied to this source of energy. It has the power to create and destroy. It's truly one of the most awesome forces in the universe. High voltage attempts to convey the energy and excitement of electricity racing across the sky, across wires, and across the world. In conceiving this piece, I knew that I wanted to incorporate electronic effects to enhance the meaning and programmatic nature of the work. This work uses both a synthesizer and a set of sound effects to help create the aural experience for both the audience and the player. The work may be successfully performed without any of these effects, but it definitely will lose some of it if you will pardon this pun, lose some of the spark. So this is going to be High Voltage, and we've got some folks who've got been playing on the keyboard back here, and then over here we've got the engineer. Give us a little thunder action. So don't be frightened when you hear that sound from outside. It's from the speaker. Okay. Got 3 or 4 other sound effects we're going to keep secret for you. Okay. So this is High Voltage by Randall Standridge.
Joel on behalf of the Central Band. We appreciate your knowledge and the time spent with us today. Please take this gift as a token of our appreciation.
All right, so before we play our last one, it's another sort of programmatic piece that would be a little bit like Second World War. So we had the Civil War and then the Second World War, in which the Red Army, Russia, against all odds, successfully defended Moscow against the German invasion. In October 1941, German troops were only 15 miles outside of Moscow, an unfavorable situation for the Soviet Union. 2 million people had evacuated Moscow, but Joseph Stalin stayed to rally morale. In November, the Germans launched a new attack on Moscow. The Soviet Army held their ground and brought the Germans to a halt. Stalin insisted on a counterattack, and although his commanders had doubts, they launched their own offensive on December the 4th. The Germans, which were caught off guard and demoralized by the recent defeat, were pushed back and began retreating. By January, they had been pushed back nearly 200 miles. So this is a song that's going to kind of talk to us, or going to kind of portray that. What you're going to hear, the very first thing you'll hear, the melody from the clarinets, and it's a melody called the Meadowlands, which is a Russian folk song they're going to play, and you're going to hear it again later, but you're going to also hear the battle. You're going to hear where the Germans and Russians were fighting, and the battle's going to happen with our bass drum, and the cymbals, and the timpani, and all these things are going to happen. So hopefully you'll enjoy the Moscow 1941 by Brian Balmages.